Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Under Construction. I'm your host Ellis, otherwise known as the Admiral. Once again, we are staring at many farm fields, and I think the thing I want to do right now, the thing I want to do today, or at least this very moment, is figure out what we're going to make the delineators between the fields look like. I know that we had that, well, this is going to be grass, like here, which I can get rid of some of these rulers now. Let's do some ruler cleanup first, while I wait for people to trickle in, because we're not going to need these measurements again, I don't think. These guys are pretty done, although we will need to come back and probably do some farmhouses, things like that. Maybe. Not sure necessarily. Hi, Matt. You are on time and I am on time. That's noteworthy in two directions there. Can I make this smaller? No, I can't shrink this. I just have to scoot the window over so I can see less. Being too productive is less important than the under construction stream. I don't know, Jader. I think you could listen to this and be productive. I put that to you as a challenge. Good evening, Comrade Pat. And yeah, I saw you posting that you were up there. I noticed you hung out in the hotel room for a couple hours, you said, and I was just thinking, like, damn, I wish he had said something earlier so that Achilles could have given him more directions. Jader's thinking, that's dangerous. Hi, Vankman. Hi, Kitty Cat. You just wandered in here. I am a little bit off-kilter right now, because, like, we're not making dinner like I expected to, and I skipped lunch, and I just, like, scarfed down some leftovers before I got started here. Also trying to get the stove running, so I might have to step out in a minute, because we're gonna have, like, not record low temperatures, but very low temperatures here tonight. And I don't know if Gloria is necessarily going to pay all of the attention to the stove, although it should just go now. It really shouldn't have that much trouble now that I've got it fired up. Hey TJ, you ready for the cold temps? You had me for about an hour. You had me for an hour before I headed the training class I'm here for. That's kind of cool that you got flown all the way out there for a training class. I assume this is for your work. I had no idea that there was stuff that they would not outsource, but like do off campus, so to speak. If it's not for your work, then please correct me. But that's what I thought it was. Going to Cats this weekend because her heat is better and her house is insulated better. Yeah, that's a good place to be then. I have poor insulation and heat that I don't want to turn up because I have poor insulation. Sort of a double-edged sword, in a sense. I'm not sure if I'm misusing that metaphor, honestly. I didn't think about it before I said it. Yeah, it's either way I suffer, so it works. It's gonna be our airports. Brake ride trainer for the regional jets. Oh, cool. Oh, Gloria's making tea, but probably just using hot water to melt candle wax at Icer. Let's finish marking these out. And by finish, I mean we have only barely begun. We have many lines to draw still. In fact, I should probably be... I shouldn't even be doing this. I should be doing... just laying down roads to cover the grid spaces. Oh well. It's something. I'm here on time for once, so I have the time to spend. Lafayette, what are you doing in the corner? He loses squeakies under the TV stand. Oh no, it's the fields. Yeah, no, I do you hear, like, whispering in the corn? Because I do. We'll be here all day. Yes, thank you, Jader. I was thinking about while talking about everybody singing to that in the roundhouse. Found a bar downtown called Down Under Bar. I'm not gonna sing, but it's in me right now. I want you guys to know that you're making me want to belt it out. Although I mentioned, you know, I'm being recorded obviously by YouTube. Um, I mentioned that during the Sabaton concert, Gloria was recording during Swedish Pagans, and I was just belting it out. And every time I hear that recording, I just want to die. Don't necessarily. You don't have to sing at concerts. You can just let people enjoy the music, and not you. Go sing in your car. Uh, totally didn't have Men at Work stuck in my head after that. Oh yeah, the Land Down Under bar. There you go. All right, continue marking this out. The only issue is Trainz used to be mostly okay with drawing ground while moving, and now it doesn't want you to do that anymore. The frame rate drops precipitously. Alright, there we go. I should, but I could, yeah, I should just bear with it and just go. I can do this. The other issue is controlling it. I need to use very subtle mouse movements, and if I go off a little bit, correcting it can lead me to be totally out of control. But see how smooth that is? Well, not. The frame rate's choppy, but see how smooth it could be? I accidentally installed Trainz 2019. That's the wrong version. I assume you were trying to do MPS. Yeah, that's not what you want to do. That won't let you in. I need to get back on the MPS route. I was on the other day. I did some experimenting with industries. I was trying to clear space on my hard drive. So you installed? Oh, uninstalled. Oh, crap. Um, See, that's when having to hide half the chat window does not help. Because I literally could not see the beginning of that word. Well, that's unfortunate. I hope you still have all the content. I assume you'll be waiting quite a while. Although you can just go... You can just go straight to 2022. No, that's not gonna work. Somewhere, yeah. You accidentally uninstalled 2019. How did that happen? Were you just like going through your programs list and telling things to uninstall and you clicked on the wrong one? Alright. Honestly, it can be kind of fuzzy. The only thing is I feel like these lines are too... What's the word? They're too broad, even though the roads will be... I mean, they'll cover the whole things and then some, probably. I run out of room for my mouse, and I end up hitting my microphone. I'm trying to avoid that. Study for my Calc 3 final, or I could do rivets on the Conga. Well, you've only got one Calc 3 final, and you've got a lot of cookies to make, so I feel like the cookies definitely are more important. It's just a bigger backlog of stuff, you know? It's worth more. Just kidding, go study. I'll do one thing at a time, and yeah, I will probably copy paste these with the edges in the future. It looks much better with the edges. I'll say that. I hope you guys agree. Go study, then work on cookie. Yeah, because the other thing is you study for the exam, and you get done studying for the exam. When you work on cookie, there is no done. You're never finished. So, I have a lot of follow-up emails to write regarding the Big E and the people that I talked to there. Now, the main narrow gauge was the only 2-foot people that seemed very interested in trading cards. There were some folks at Edaville that were, and some folks at Edaville that weren't, and the woman who's in charge of the whole thing was was in the latter category, you might say. Um, Her plucky young assistant seemed much more interested. I am eagerly awaiting a response from the Valley Railroad about doing cards for them, but I'm also awaiting a response from Steve to get the Valley Railroad engines on Locobase. Also, the Wannabe Boys, which are still not up. But if we do main narrow gauge, it would probably be 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 11, or whatever their diesel is. I can't remember if it's 11 or 1. That would be the way to go, probably. Because then you have all the locomotives you need to play a game. I mean, they're all 2-foot, and some of them are almost identical. But, you know, if you want to sell 2-foot, have you tried the Cripple Creek and Victor? That's actually a really good idea. Those locomotives are really fun and funny. You know what I haven't tried, though, because I feel like it's tapping a friendship, almost. Or not almost, it is. I haven't tried the Colorado Railroad Museum. I'd love to do a pack of 491, 346, 20, I don't know, 191, or even the big Q thing, and the last Rio Grande steamer, whose number escapes me, 643? The big Q thing would be interesting. Tyler can feel free to weigh in. Heist card. 493, 20, 346, 191, 683. Yeah, that would be fun, although, again, I as much as I would love to make a 191 card, yes, Mark trading card. Doing the big CB and Q thing is probably a way to balance the pack a little bit. Mark is a helper card. He just has every style point, except for one, which Weibold has in his card, which is Tallest Man in Colorado. Leighton's style point is best at Railroad Jeopardy, if I remember right. Alternatively, yes, Matt, go on. Brett Y card. Yeah, it's actually, it's, for those who received the Christmas card, it's just the trading card, but it's that shape. It's a regular trading card, but it's that shape. It's just extra tall. But that would be a really fun one. I mean, if anyone wants to speak on my behalf, and anyone being Tyler, of course, but I kind of want to, I don't want to leverage that friendship and then have them flop, so I want them to be in at least one other gift shop first. I mean, people seem to like them online, but we shall see. I wonder how well Steamtown's ones sell. The fellas at the Big E, the 3713 folks, while their unbounded optimism was quite dampered this year, which is a shame. Did I showed them my wares, and they seem very interested about a 3713 card, but they were also saying, oh yeah, Steamtown has their own souvenir cards. I'm like, yes, they sure do. They're the reason I make these things, in part. Well, in actually very large part, as a matter of fact. But yeah, 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9, and their diesel. Hey, Master Badger. It's funny, the first museum that I pitched trading cards to was the Rare Museum of Pennsylvania. 56, 29, 318, Standard Oil 1. We could do the Pikes Peak Boy, RGS 74, and UP 55, or 4455. That would be a fun arrangement. Oh wait, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we need to do the GP30 that got all crispy. The crispy GP30 as the helper card. Or coal, which I think is what is. No, yeah. How about the loop? Does the loop have enough locomotives? I mean, we could do 9. Um, what locomotives have been at the loop? 9. I think 111. Yeah, no, I would have done an H10 in the Rare Museum of Pennsylvania pack if they had wanted them, but they don't. Um, there was supposed to be a cookie card in the RO pack, or RO batch. This is a... I didn't do this line. Um, 9 to the South American edges, couple of West Side Shays. Yeah, see, we don't know how to do Shays yet. I haven't broached that subject. RO more like RIP, yeah. Although I've been wanting to play again with the stuff that's come out. I mean, I haven't fiddled with it very much. I went on to look at the new locomotive selections. Um, and I wanted to start a save, but my computer just gets angry at me a little bit, and I don't want to stress it out. So I figured I'll just wait until I finish my upgrades, which I can do now. I got a suitable power strip. There we go. Master Badger says, I found some pretty cool pictures a few days ago for my Trainz route. What pictures of what? I want to see pictures of Spider-Man. Alright. There we go. We're actually making some pretty good headway on this, considering it's only 15 minutes past the hour. But I think there is one 100%, unfortunately it's a non-revenue item, but doing a special order for the folks of the Down East Scenic for Main Central 470 is search PR 1046 and scroll until you see the D16. Well, I won't be doing that right now. Maybe when I'm done with the stream. But yeah, they want stuff to go with raffle rewards or to be raffle rewards, and I said, yeah, I can make a set for you guys. That'd be fun. And the nice thing about the 470 is that all the stats are on Locobase already. It has a finished stat sheet. I don't need to go digging. That said, if I did need to go digging, you know, I know who to contact. I very much know who to contact. But the woman who I was talking to there seems very excited about them, but is not in over her head, but seems like, wow, I took on a lot of responsibility and we've got a lot going on. Totally wants me to come to the Down East Scenic, which I'm sure she says that to everyone who visits the booth because that's her job. Yeah, there's no hiding. There's no hiding, Tyler. You're gonna have to take a break from the cookies sometimes. Sometime. We still need to do that 4014 thing. Supposed to make a 4014 special order at some point. Tyler, get over. Yeah. You're my technical advisor. You're important. Once we start making money, you'll get a share of the profits. Maybe, probably. I would hope. I would hope I have enough to divvy up. How would I go over there? Not gonna be a QMA about this. Oop, did I say that out loud? I don't really ever expect it to make that much money, but you know, if we do make a trading card empire, once we have a website and we'll just have a staff of 3 or 4 people. It's not too bad. We'll do all right. All right. Those are slightly shakwad. All right. go. Yeah, imagine with all the money you get from trading cards, you can order BK. All right, here we go. Thank you, Jader. Anyway, the reality of making money off of these cards is a future endeavor and an offline discussion. And really, right now, we just sort of need a website. Uh, I still have plenty for sale. My time on certain days has opened up probably both to the benefit and detriment of my brain. Oh boy. Well, I I'm I would be more than happy to schedule isms if now I had the time. I am going through and reviewing a fairly large piece of work for a friend of mine, so a lot of my weekday evening time is taken up at current. I keep pushing off the return of royales or double headers or whatever we want to do, but just Loco Dome grudge matches. But you know, all right, soon TM. Honestly, I'd rather spend that time on doing trading card specific things at this moment because we've got this what I feel like is a lot of momentum coming off the Big E, and I just want to get some stuff done. Um, do really need to discuss the whole rigid wheelbase thing. I mean, I think I might stick with driver wheelbase, but always just have it called driver wheelbase. Always do a single driver. Um, yeah, Rails Motel has a pretty good view of the mountains to the west of the city. Cool. I mean, where in Salt Lake does not have a good view of the mountains, though? At BK. God damn it. Let's use this one. We are also going to need to... Oh, why am I spinning it? No, stop that. Yeah, I just need to have the time to do trading cardisms. But I know Tyler is a busy individual. I don't want to bother him as much as I could, I suppose. He has obligations to people that are not me. And also, himself. I suppose that includes himself. But, the People Choice batch is on the horizon somewhere once I sell out of these cards. So, try to get your friends into the ecosystem. Once Logo Dome comes out, I feel like it'll be a more viable game to play in person. Una Reverse, watch me bother you. I mean, feel free. Uh, if you're gonna push me into trading cardisms, that's like a good thing. I need that. Just always get done with the day and go, all right, well, I'm done. I'm done. I need to read this script. I need to do this thing. I need to, clean this house. If some of that time is trading cards, even like an hour, I could make a trading card from scratch in a couple of hours. It's not that much. It's only when I'm doing snooze the Windows update. Thank you. It's only when I'm doing a full batch of 16 that it's like, all right, this is gonna take a couple weeks. Especially when some of the stuff doesn't have full stat pages or things are dubious. But, again, once we have a website, I feel like things will be easier. What a steam locomotive you think shouldn't be made in Trainz? That's a left field question, but shouldn't? That's a tough question, because really, what shouldn't be made in Trainz? Oh, the cookies. Tyler, stop. Stop killing yourself. No, it shouldn't be made in Trainz. Fontaine Fiasco. Yeah. Yeah, that's Fontaine Fiasco or the Holman Horror. Final answers. A good number of things on the Loco Locomotives page, but those two in particular. Just the things that are completely unbelievably unworkable or just Ponzi schemes. Watch me ascend to the immortal plane on a Broadway of cookies. Oh my god. Too bad we don't have cookies for OpenTTD yet. Tyler, I think you should get on that. Actually, Tyler, if these maniacs vote Extreme as the next OpenTTD server, do you want to team up? Because then you can do passenger stuff and I can do freight stuff, and I think our lives will be better for it. Oh, and Master Badger found Hello Dolly. Sure, dope. I'm still not voting for it though. It needs more attention. In fact, right now, just regular British Columbia with no other changes is winning, and that's funny, but I don't think that's the best result here. I only upvoted the suggestions that are not extreme, but also complete. Never built Geiger City in Trainz. Oof. Would the Holman Horror actually be a pyramid scheme? Haha. Well, yes, but actually no. Like, on the one hand, yes, it is pyramids, but on the other hand, it was just a Ponzi scheme. If it was a pyramid scheme, I would actually be very impressed, because it means that there were hundreds of these, presumably, that people were buying and selling to get the proper tiers of a multi-level marketing. Yeah, investor fraud of the most hilarious sort. 1800s Enron. Or 1800s, what's that crypto firm that just, like, had a massive disaster? Tiger City. Impossible, gone wrong, yeah. Like I said, I need to get back into MPS. I already... See, the thing is... So, Kevon pitched me this idea, which I still don't totally understand, where, like, I would do track work and he would do scenery. I just don't know... Because he's really good at track work. I understand he probably doesn't want to do a lot of it. But the other thing is, when I pitched a similar idea to him, like, multiple months ago now, it's because we were going to have a dem route. And I feel like the biggest hurdle of all is doing the terrain. And I don't want to do that, and I don't think he does either. So, I don't know. That needs to be discussed. But we've both got our railroads to take care of. But I do need someone to do scenery, because I sure as hell am not going to do it. So, maybe I will take him up on that offer just to, like, make my life a little better. I don't know. This looks like a weird painting, honestly. Okay. Hey, Mopac. Kind of floating around making scenes and stuff. And I totally respect that. See, what I wish I could do, I kind of wish I didn't have my own railroad. Because I would just want to do industry stuff and AI stuff, which I know the AI in VUT is still pretty minimal, but it's there, sorta. I just want to do the run-8isms, sort of, but in VUT. But perfecting okay, here's where the track marks go, here's where the signals need to go, so that the AI will do its thing, that I think is really important, and stuff that, makes me, makes me happy. Here's a thought out of left field. If the Fontaine Fiasco was geared instead of friction contact, might it have been a viable way to reduce hammer blow on the track? Maybe. I mean, I I don't know, because all that energy has got to go somewhere. So it's probably going to end up going into the track anyway. The thing is, there are other things at play here, you know. I know what you look like. Dox him. Don't dox him. We're gonna try to copy a section that already has the brown. Force would not be balanced out just because you threw it through some gears. Yeah, no, the forces would have to end up going somewhere else. If you threw in more counterweights, maybe. See, the issue with balancing the Fontaine Fiasco is because now you have a cylinder that's at a weird angle anyway. So I don't know how much it would really help. We're gonna have to let's spin this around. It's gonna make some ground. Thank you for those tiles that I definitely wanted. There's really good spline called Dockwall Timber. I've been using it in ways I probably shouldn't. I'll have to check that out. I suppose I could download one thing, right? If I download one thing, nothing bad could happen. The one thing is real. Let's download the one thing. Let's save first. Dockwall Timber. I'm kind of thinking about doing the whole MPS thing, but at the same time I feel like dead weight because I can't build anything. Listen, you don't need to... Number one, everyone starts somewhere, so don't worry about that. And number two, I'm sure there are people that could use your help, even if it's just a, point in direction and do this thing, like make some fields, if somebody asked you to do this, I'm sure you'd be able to manage it. And if somebody asked you to, like, oh, make I might already have it downloaded. Because I just looked up Dockwall and it's not showing up. Hold on. Dockwall Timber. I have it. I own that. Dockwall Timber. I'm going to have to use that in the future. That's a really good asset. Thank you for letting me know about that. Badger. Everyone starts somewhere, you just might go crazy after a little over half a decade. When did I start this route? I mean, a little over half a decade. This route has been around a little while, but also ask if an Amtrak went by and Ellis missed it. All right, I saw the end of it. But I mean, I've been building since... You know what? Actually, I'm not going to finish that thought. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about how long I've been playing this game for. And how long I've been building for, and I've never completed a route. But, well, that's normal. But that's normal and nothing to be ashamed of. I tell myself, so I'm not ashamed. But, yeah. 2006 is calling. Yeah, the Ghost of 06 was a real thing for a while. For those who don't remember or weren't around for it, 06 was still installed on my system for years and years and years, and every time I would install a CDP, it would open in 06 first. Every time I would download a CDP, 06 would automatically start so that I could take it in. And then, of course, it wouldn't be able to because it'd be from a much newer version of Trainz. But every single time, and I would have to, like, beg it to stop because it would slow down the whole computer. Um, yeah, like a model railroad, never finished. Alright. But my test, to go back to OpenTDD for a minute, my testing of Extreme has been going, or sorry, Triple X Edition, uh, has been going fairly well. Um, I am running into the issues of the industry set is so complex. If you have relatively few spaces on your map, which was having the same issue during the streaming edition of it too. Um, if you have only a handful of spaces for lots of industries to pile up, it's functionally impossible to build a railroad network without it looking like Factorio. Without it looking like you're doing a grid base in Factorio. Alright, so I'm going to break this up into, let's see, 1, 2, 3, maybe? Let's use this as a delineator. Well, how big is this? Let's take a measurement. Oh, I haven't been in route layer. Thankfully, I haven't placed anything. But I haven't made it to the part where the D16 comes in, and I think one of the things that I'm going to do to nerf the D16 even harder, uh, among other things, is yes, it is that stuff is twice as expensive. I'm building my route. It's starting to lose it. Lol. Yeah. Yes, the stuff from the add-on pack is twice as expensive, but also, okay, I could break it into 4 with 2,000 feet per side. We'll go 2,000 from that edge, this edge, and then no, let's not. The dock wall does make a good-looking retaining wall. I'll give you that. So this is setting, and I know lots of the best things that I've ever said start with. So there's a setting. There is a setting to change the cost when a locomotive is repaired. So after it's had a breakdown, when it goes in for maintenance. And you can change that. It can be all the way up to the full price of the locomotive and possibly even higher than that. I haven't checked. But everything else being equal, a locomotive that's more expensive to purchase will be more expensive to operate, just by virtue of this. So even if the running cost is the same, even if it has the same sort of settings with regard to running cost, even if it breaks down the same amount, it will be more expensive. In fact, if it's twice as expensive, 1-to-1, it'll be twice as expensive. And you can count on that. Now, maintenance costs are usually, or not maintenance costs, yeah, maintenance costs are usually not as, they're not that serious. They don't ever tend to cause people distress. I want to change that. I want maintenance costs to be something that you think about, or at least something in the back of your mind when you go, ooh, I should buy this locomotive, but it's incredibly expensive. It's cheaper to run, but it's incredibly expensive. Because it's going to be more expensive to, say, get parts for if the locomotive is more expensive. That's the way I'm rationalizing it in my head. Run it, scrap it, buy it again. Yeah, no, exactly. That's sort of what it seems like it would be. I thought about doing stuff like that. Or I thought about, like, the implications of this being something like that, I should say. I didn't think about turning it up to 100% because that'd be insane. Um, Not that what I'm doing isn't insane. but I have it on, I think, 5% or something like that. I might turn it up as high as like 20%. Where if you have a train that's barely breaking even, uh, a locomotive breaking down a lot is going to end up costing you a lot of effing money. Now, the only thing is, I don't know how that's quantified. I don't know if that's saved in the profit graph of the locomotive. And in fact, I kind of want to test it, but I don't really know how. There are too many other variables to account for. Honestly, the thing that I could do is just sort of look at, crank it way up and then see if that's reflected. Um, can maintenance costs and OPT be adjusted in game to keep locos at a certain level of operationality, like Transport Fever? Um, I'm not sure I know. I'm not sure I'm familiar with the mechanic you're talking about. I know that in Transport Fever stuff, like the maintenance cost gets higher over time. But are you saying in like Transport Fever 2 you can change how much you're paying for maintenance so that the stuff will not get worse? I don't because I don't remember that from 1 and I've only played like an hour of 2. But I would like that. No, you can't do it. Yeah, no, unfortunately you cannot do that. Which is that is a really cool feature or setting. That would be very nice, actually. It would be a little bit heavy on the micromanagement, but I made my micromanagement even worse. I'll explain in a second. Um, if I don't explain, please just yell at me until I do. Like if I forget. But no, you can't change that. It reminds me of the hmm, the way that SimCity, the way that you can do stuff in SimCity. Um, I'm actually going to go to 2500 from here. Although, hold on. How long is this? This is 8,000? 8,700. 8,700, if I break that into fourths, that's 2,000 and change. Um, what's half a mile? Yeah, it's about 2,500. So what do I do? Because this is... I feel like they would have broken this into quadrants, fourths. But they maybe would have broken it into thirds. Maybe I'm back to the idea of thirds. Yeah, let's do thirds. Let's just do 3,000 feet from this road right here. Yeah, 2,600 is in the wrong direction. I was hoping it'd be smaller than 2,500, but obviously that's not how that works. 3,000 feet is right here. 71, make a right angle off of this, so that's going to be 161. There. Hi, Lafayette. I'm going to go check on the stove in a minute. I would assume Gloria has a handle on it, but I want to know how it's doing out there. So we'll have a brief intermission of maybe a minute or two. Give enough time for people to take a leak or grab some drinks. There we go. And then when I get back, you can ask me how I made life harder for myself. Which is not like a setting or anything, it's just a way I've decided to play the game. Don't touch that dial. There we go. Alright, what did I miss? So on to Chapter 10, Cookie under UPD&G ownership. Oh, hey, what's up, dog? It's DSP&P with more corruption, I think. DSP&P, robber baron edition, eventually bankruptcy and receivership. Well, ain't we all? I'm pretty sure it was a what's up, dog joke. Wasn't UPD&G 113? That's the 113 that was going to be in the RO pack. That is something that I still want to make a trading card of. Well, I still want to do a 3-foot gauge full batch. But that is a, you know, RO2. RO2 made by Brazilians. We'll talk to them. UPD&G 113 card someday. Well, the more trading card stuff we work on, the greater likelihood we get the chance to do cookie cards. I mean, you could do you could do 2 whole batches of just cookies. You could make 2 batches of cookies. We can make 2 batches of cookies because there are what, 30-something variations. We have plenty of American engines and trains as long as what you want is from K&L. But yeah, no, you're right. Let's see. Let's see, what should we use here? I'm thinking like this? Or is this TRBR for the AO4? What is this one? That's the same one. Son of a gun. I knew it. I was like, these seem very similar. This one we just used. This one we haven't used in a minute. Well, actually we have. All these like subtly different greens. And I'm never sure which ones I've used and which ones I haven't. Seamless Farmland E. Have you considered Blender? Blender, but I barely even know her. Yeah, I mean, that's... Unless you've got money to shell out in the general direction of 3D modelers, learning how to make the things yourself is the closest way you're going to get things made that you want, you know? The quickest way. And your alternative is making some really good friends and then promising you'll put 2-foot on your thing if they make you some 2-foot. And then making an elaborate backstory for the 2-foot on your thing, and then forgetting it all. So, you know, mostly cosmetic differentiations. Mechanical differences of note for a stat sheet include expansion of tender tank, 903 rebuilds. That's about it. If we're gonna do a 6-card batch for the main narrow gauge of 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9, you've got 2 almost identical pairs in there, and they seemed more than happy to have us do that. Like the guy that I talked to, he was more than happy. Like that's the first thing he suggested. I have a Royale suggestion. Uh-oh. Go ahead. Yeah, you know what? I might just go for it. I might just do the interesting and call for rigid wheelbase to be a thing. I don't know. I keep waffling on that because I don't want to like countermand previous cards. If you have 2 high pressure cylinders that are different sizes, can one be used as a low pressure cylinder? No. A rail question. No, unless it says unless it is a low pressure cylinder, then no. They require different plumbing. They require different pipes. I'll just use this as the field edge, I guess. If it's cross compound, then it's not a high pressure cylinder. That also is true. What? Yeah, no, I'm curious as to what locomotive has two different high pressure cylinders of different sizes. But you can't just get away with that. You can't just get away with asking that question and then disappearing back into the ether. G and R-2. Were those not cross compounds? Why did I think they were? Are they? Do I think right? Alright, let's fill this in. I like how simple fields are, honestly. It's a lot of tedium, but they get done, you know? Well, couldn't you theoretically throttle the pipe to the larger cylinder to lower the pressure? Ah, I mean, if you had a regulator on it that you could do that with, I suppose so. But you don't. I feel like that's not. You don't do that. But even then, like you've just created a lower pressure cylinder, not a low pressure cylinder. Uh, like it's not compounding. It's still technically a high pressure cylinder. It just has a low pressure. Um, Wait, is it not a compound, but it has cylinders listed as low pressure? What is the R2? Can someone post a picture of this in somewhere where I can see it, please, in streaming and recording? I need to know what these things are to make my judgments. They were simple articulated as 20H cylinders, and then GN downsized the front cylinders to 26-inch. Okay, no, that's that's okay. Yeah, no, those are still high pressure cylinders. This needs to go in the dossier. I'm trying to get everything done off the first dossier before we move on to a second one, because I know people have been stacking up locomotives that they want, etc., etc. We've been finding issues in the loco base. That's another one of the things that, like, is another reason I'm being hesitant on bringing back, you know, Locomotive Versus show. Photo and streaming recording. Scroll away from this. Oklahoma, Texas, or something IDK. Awesome. Thank you, Pat. Yeah, there are no low pressure cylinders there. Alright, let's you know, I assume it was to prevent slippy problems. But I don't see that's not a compound. So no, they're not low pressure cylinders, and someone's gotta take that up with Steve and Wes, but mostly Steve because he does the back end stuff. Wes just runs the website. All right, we need to steam usage. Yeah, that's another one. Maybe a couple things. Well, if it's steam usage, I feel it feels well. I guess just out of simplicity, they wouldn't want to change both sets of cylinders. But I feel like then you induce slippy problems. 3.35. Ouch. Oh, because factor of adhesion can vary based on wheel set. Oh, right. That's not something you want. I don't feel like you want your factor of adhesion on your two different wheel sets to be very different. You have to check that with the calculator. Just treat them as two independent locomotives. But then you need to know the weights on the different wheel sets to get that right. So you need data, you need numbers. What if 100-inch drivers? Yeah, the Hurricane. I know the Hurricane was bigger than that, but you know, bigger than you thought. So the reason the Valley Road stuff is not in uh, the local base yet is Steve isn't sure. He thinks he overlooked it, or maybe there wasn't enough data. And I'm thinking, well, I couldn't give you more data than this. But also, even at an absence of data, I did create the sheet. Although I do understand that that's like, yes, these are the numbers. Trust us. Trust me. I went and got numbers. 3.9 is a hell of a lot better than 3.4. Excuse me. Now I've got the hiccups. Great. Fantastic. Alright. Let's do this. Probably going to do more open TDD after this. Would you guys want to see how, I know this is like 2 hours away. Will you guys want to see the current state of my calamity? Maybe we could get to the D16 tonight and just see how it looks. But yeah, I don't think we're ready for extreme. Again, I will check the poll. Sexy green boiler jacket. That is a nice shot, Badger. Yeah, once again, it is the Pacific Northwest or British Columbia that's winning, with no other changes. It's got 7 votes too. It's got a pretty commanding lead. So expect that. That's going to be a difficult map because there's going to be some flat area where people are going to fight, and then there's just going to be mountains and fjords. And the reason I didn't... I mean, I originally voted for East's suggestion, which was sort of like the southern tip of South America and Extreme and Triple X Edition. But honestly, I could be way more on the nose and just call that porn mode, but I'm not going to. I retracted my vote partly because I don't think XXX is ready, but also because that map is, ugh, you know, it's tough. It looks like a real pain because you've got this arrangement with a lot of steep slopes that it's just very difficult to build stuff on. I don't think I've used this. That looks like garbage. Approach medium, my lord and savior. Seriously, his building are probably going to make up 50% or more of the buildings on my route. OpenTD Cartoon Beer Edition. Yeah. It's just, fjords are hard. Fjords are difficult to build in and difficult to deal with. Ask the Norwegians, you know? And for that, I mean, to do extreme on there would make it even more difficult. And I kind of liked the challenge that was presented by Horizon when he told me to do the California map. But even still, the Central Valley is just easy mode. It's just all flat and uninteresting. And no offense, but there's a reason they're putting high-speed rail there someday. And then you have the hills of Nevada, which honestly might make for a good map on their own if you zoomed way in, to make the hills more striking and the valleys more striking. But at that point, you've gotten to an area where it's too difficult, where the industries won't even spawn because it's too difficult, and it's tough to find a middle ground. And when I go and make a map for myself, I typically go through a few different locations where I'll pick one off of off of Google Earth or off of Tangram, the height mapper. Don't say that to East Rail, Master Badger. Imagine if someone rebuilt Hurricane. Do not say that in front of East Rail, please. Because he'll be the one. I'll take a map off of Tangram, I'll edit it, I'll put it in OpenTTD. I might do that a couple of times. Just like tweak it, check it, tweak it, check it, and then eventually, when I feel like I've got the right amount of like land to water and height of the mountains correct, and any waterways I feel like I need to add or widen, that sort of thing, because that's a decent amount of time. It's maybe an hour or so at the most. I will look at that and go, let's look at where the industries are, and if they're too clustered or they're too, sparse because the game just can't figure out places to put them, then I scrap that and I go make a different map. This first one, the one that I'm doing right now, I can't remember what I did first. Oh, I did Italy. Italy was my first attempt. It was pretty cool, but I did Northern Italy for the sake of the size of it, and the issue with that was the valley where the river that leads into to Venice is. That the river in the north of Italy. There's a large floodplain, and it's dead flat. There's nothing interesting there. It doesn't present difficult gameplay unless you really want to go somewhere to like the extremities of the map. And because I'm making exclusively square maps, because I don't want to make them any bigger, and I don't want to make them long, that does lead, me to a couple of conundrums sometimes where it would be a great map if it was sort of stretched out, if it was a 1x2 sort of shape. Love those in Transport Fever, but for OpenTTD on a multiplayer server, I don't like them as much because they sort of they force you and people together. A square map I feel like is better. Anyway, point is, I've been making these square maps and it's tough to get the landscape right. And there are a few qualifiers. And when I go and make, like, the Pacific Northwest one, if that wins, or the British Columbia one, rather, then I will probably do more tweaking to make sure that there's enough water, to make sure that there is, the mountains aren't ridiculous, but there aren't as many flat spaces as there could be, that sort of thing. Now, the thing with doing that map, or even doing the Pacific Northwest, or things in that vicinity with Steeltown, in particular, is that a lot of Steeltown's commodities are reliant on wharves and bulk terminals. Unlike the Extreme Industry set and Axis, so both of the Extreme Industry sets, because they're made by the same guy, I found out, you have to use the water to get commodities, and that is something that I don't really like about Steeltown or certain sets in Furs, and that I think XIS and Axis provide a reasonable improvement over. You can get everything from land, There are only a couple of exceptions in the early-ish to mid-game, and that's like plastics, and, I mean, rubber also. But these are things that would probably have to be shipped in anyway in certain climates, yada yada. You can't grow rubber trees everywhere, despite what Minecraft might have you believe. Industrial craft. So I guess it makes sense. It doesn't make me happy, but it makes sense, and because they're only one commodity out of 50 or 60. I think the max is 64, and they use every commodity. Because of that, the thinking. I need to eat again. I didn't have enough to eat. I'm running out of juice. Because of that, I feel like I feel like the extreme industry sets, I should just say, are, like, it's actually beneficial to have them on a map that is primarily uh, land and does not have many or really any water features. This is a really nice texture, honestly. I found that Strasbourg 89 got stuck in a flood while coming to Strasbourg. Yeah, that's a very famous photo. Um, Actually, a very famous event, relatively speaking, in terms of, like, foamers knowing about it. Uh, yeah, it got submerged. Uh, it's kind of crazy. What am I gonna put here? I could go with another greenish one, but I don't really have too many other good green ones. Um, I think I'll just do this one. No, I don't. I really don't like the look of that one. What about this one? Yeah. I kind of want something greener, honestly. We can always do this, but I don't think that looks particularly good right up next to the track. That looks appalling. What about this? What if I increase the scale on this? Yeah, let's do that. Turn that 90 degrees. Nope, turn that less than 90 degrees. I want it to be 90 degrees from that, actually. There we go. Okay. So, now that oh, I needed to say what I've been doing, which is I've just been using some of the additional features on template replace to leave me with a bunch of random junk when I do template replace. And then I stick all that in a museum. Or I try to recycle it and reuse it. Um, Obviously, it's tough to keep things running after they're obsolete. Like, I've still got a couple of Norrises floating around. One of them's in regular service, the other one's in the museum. But it's really just a way for me to catalog all the stuff that I've purchased and didn't want to sell/repurchase. One of the best things I found out was that you can you can you can have templates take from depots when you ask them to replace a local or a train set. So you could just stick a whole bunch of your stuff in a depot, and then when you set a template replace, it'll grab from that if that stuff is relevant or useful, which is cool. I mean, if you are really, really starving for cash, it might be the way to go because it's free to keep stuff in depots. You just have to move it every once in a while if you're doing construction. But I kind of wish there was more to the buildings, like the train-related buildings in OpenTDD. There are three things that I would add. I would remove the regular depot, first of all. And I would add a locomotive builder or a car shop or a foundry or whatever you want to, an erecting hall. That's what I want. I want an erecting hall. And there is the only place that you can buy and sell, maybe, locomotives. And maybe even cars. Or you can have an erecting hall to buy locomotives and a car shop to buy freight cars. But separating those out would be kind of neat. but they would probably be together so that template replace works, things like that. And then you could have like an engine house where you do uh, your whatchamahoozits, where you can do maintenance. And an erecting hall would be very expensive and very expensive to maintain. And then your engine house would be, sort of like the regular depot in the game right now. And I would also like to have a switch yard where you could have automated switching of cars, but that's a different story. I just like the idea of having to sort of juggle well, there's only one place where we can buy stuff, so let's just attach things to that. Maybe you get your first one free? That would sort of make sense. Actually, maybe it would be attached to your company headquarters. I want roundhouses and yards, yeah. No, oh, good, you're here. Because I was about to talk about my switchyard idea. No. I think having an erecting hall as the only place where you can build locomotives, and it's very expensive, and it's tied to your HQ, right? It's tied to your HQ, or the first one is, and the second one is like $100,000. Something crazy, and it gets more expensive as it goes on. So that you don't just throw down a bunch of different routes all over the place. You need everything to tie back to your company headquarters, at least in the early game, because otherwise it's completely untenable. Otherwise you're spending bajillions on building erecting halls everywhere so that you can sort of move stuff around. Now there's another conflicting idea, or so you can make stuff anywhere. Another conflicting idea, which is I wish the inventory of depots was shared. And now call me crazy. I know this is in complete opposition to the thing I just said, but it would be nice to be able to sort of pull stuff from a pool of cars when you're doing template replace. Of course, that is, again, totally, does not align with my previous idea at all. But if you're going to have depots the way they are, where you can just build locomotives wherever you want, you might as well just be able to take stuff down in one and put it back up in another. Mashinki, there's a setting you can turn on where you can only build one depot, and I think that's good. I did not know about that setting. I do like Mashinki. I would like to play more of it. But I didn't know that. But the other thing with Mashinki is that you don't need to send locomotives in for maintenance. See, that's the thing that gets in the way of my idea. And my idea was, for OpenTTD, my idea was, what if I crank up the cost of depots like crazy so that you can't do this thing that I'm talking about? Now, the problem becomes, well, what about maintaining your locomotives? And we're only going to be talking about Trainz for this, so that's, the other, just forget about the rest of it for now. And that is, that is something that I went, well, I guess I can't do that. And especially for the early game, if you want these things to be crazy expensive, you still got to build at least one of them, Having it tied to your company headquarters, I think, would be a great way to start. And being able to build more later, maybe maybe it's very expensive and you have to supply them with materials, but I don't like that idea, really. But what's my favorite 440? I'll come back to that. I don't know. Maybe 1223. But yeah, I thought about, I'm not sure if there's a way I can disable reliability in the settings, but because I'm using that to help balance the two mods that are inherently unbalanced because they do different calculations for running cost, I can't turn that off, and I don't want to. Maybe it would be interesting if reliability never went down, but you still had breakdowns. So like if you buy a locomotive that has 30% reliability, it's just gonna suck forever. Uh, because it's like an early model of the thing, you know. But if you buy one later when the reliability has gone back up, then maybe it's a little bit better. I don't know. There are ways you could tweak this, but yeah, having an erecting hall where you build your locomotives and then a car shop your um, where you build your freight cars, having both of those combined into your company headquarters, but you can build them separately if you have the money. Uh, and then having a switchyard building where you can then combine cars and locomotives. And having it as a building because, let's face it, OpenTDD would never be able to handle doing it outside of a building. Um, but then if you had a switchyard type building, then have it sort of like the Trainz or the programmable signals where you can then say like, have a locomotive come in and have it in its orders to say go to this, and then drop off cars that are empty or pick up cars that have coal that are left in the building. And make it big, make it like a 2x2 building or something. That's the bones of the idea that I had, Hemlock, that I've been meaning to tell you about literally forever at this point. Uh, Having a switchyard building, I think, obviously this is well beyond the capability of a new GRF. It would have to be modded in. Um, and I don't know how you would even begin to do something like that. I don't even know how you would begin to learn to do something like that. But maybe poor maintenance costs to increase reliability. Yeah, I know, and that's coming back to the transport fever thing. Um, but if you're doing away with the depot building entirely and replacing it with just like an engine house, um, or maybe you just get maintenance done on your locomotives when they pull into stations, which sort of makes sense. Here, do this. But then there's like no disadvantage to just having them maintain all the time. Having to build dry docks. Yeah, I'd love a tycoon game with a more fleshed out and robust structure for actually running a railroad. Everything behaves like isolated unit trains, and I dislike it. Yeah, I agree with that. The only way you can get around that is using things like, yeah, and dry docks. I will say dry docks and slipways, like, they're the other thing that I thought about. It's like, though they are hideously expensive to create and operate. Like, why am I able to throw down ship making things all over the place? Um, but either you have reliability decrease very slowly, and you still have to send stuff back to the erecting hall, or you have something else, some other mechanism to increase that reliability, or it just doesn't change at all. Um, and honestly, having it not change at all is probably the best option here, um, except letting it slowly decrease after a locomotive's obsolete might be the way to go. And things can break down and get repaired when they pull into stations, sort of as they do when they pull into depots now. Um, but oh right, I need to do stuff on this side too. But it's not the same sort of deal. I don't know. I should write all this down. Because, like, yeah, reliability decreasing over time makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's it's a sort of sticky question if you ask me. If it's a There's probably multiple ways to do this, and I can't think of a really good one right now. Although you could always just keep the depot buildings and just have them solely serve the purpose of keeping things maintained, if that's what you want to do. Um, the only thing that works about how it should is trucks. You should be able to throw up a garage and put some trucks in it, sure, whatever. I mean, honestly, having a building that builds trucks and then a different building that maintains trucks, like having a truck depot and then a garage, yeah, I feel like you could do that. But yeah, I mean, trucks are used to being like isolated systems and always returning to a garage at the end of the day. So it'd be nice if the vehicle distributors could supply vehicles then, and that's it. Like you can also build vehicles from you can get vehicles from your HQ, um, a truck, like assembly yard that you make, or a truck industry, or a vehicle dealer industry. I don't know. It would be deeply tearing apart how the game works, basically, which I'm all about. But let's see, I want to make this. I want to make one of these this green. Let's do this one. That's just where a truck is based out of. Like, you bought the truck from somewhere and the depot is where it gets delivered. Yeah, and yeah. I don't disagree with that sentiment. I'm just thinking, like, now scaling the idea up to every type of, transportation in the game. We have a mechanism in the, in the industry set for building vehicles. What if we took advantage of that? Now, of course, that precludes this working with other industry sets, but that's beside the point. Um, but yeah, no, it's it's reasonable to not change trucks of all the different things. Trucks and planes are the ones that would probably want to stay the same, and trams. The other thing with trams is, and trucks to an extent, if you don't have the setting to make the automatic roads exist, is that your stuff is going to be inherently disconnected. That's just sort of how they work. Um, yeah, you'd be better off making a new game from the ground up. That's true. Um, but I'd still want it to be open TTD. So I think just changing the way trains work is enough. Um, Even just the switch yard in and of itself would make things worthwhile. Might have the diagrams for Japan's rail ferries. Yeah. Just having a building where a train can go in and be ordered to drop off certain cars or pick up certain cars. That's that's it. And I'm not sure the capability is there because there are no current commands that alter what cars a locomotive has behind it. However, it would really just be, yeah, I have no idea if it's feasible. Love switch yards and roundhouses. Yeah. There we go. I wonder why there's so many cases of towns selling their steam engines for $1 is because they just want to get it out of there. The towns sell their steam locomotives for $1 so that the cost of buying the thing is not the burden. The burden is always going to be the cost to transport it out of there. So they're just making sure that the other part is no object. All right, now we got a thing. Just build a take apart. Yeah, instead of them just being fixed objects. I totally agree. The only way you can do anything close to that right now, and in OpenTTD, or sorry, in Transport Fever, there's a mod for the unlimited, not unlimited. There's a mod for the universal stake cars that carry literally everything. And that's the closest thing you're going to get to the Railroad Tycoon-esque, you just tell the train how many cars it has, and then it picks up cargo to fill in those. And the thing that I like about the universal stake cars is that they are objectively worse than any of the cars that do a specific thing. And I'm thinking of, I'm looking at that and going, well, that's game balance, right? That's someone who actually paid attention to, like, how do I keep these from being, like, just OP, just completely OP? And the answer is that you make them worse. As long as all the other stuff in the game is balanced against each other, then as long as these are worse than it, they have that mechanical advantage of being able to pick up any cargo. Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none. But yeah, I should write this down. I wish I would write this down actually. I don't know where the heck I would write it down, but I don't think it would be well received by the OpenTTD community at large because it's changing the game so fundamentally. But it's that kind of thing where I do wish we had this sort of functionality. I wish we had this sort of challenge, you know? Yeah, I also am like brainstorming a tycoon game neither of them will ever make. Again, I'm gonna say, like, I still think it would be best off being a mod for OpenTTD, where it's just like the great train mechanics change. Um, because realistically, what else are you gonna, what else are you gonna put it in? If it's its own game, well, now you've got to figure out all the rest of the game systems, and frankly, that's just, it's not. It's either going to be a direct ripoff of the other games that we already have, or it's going to be garbage. I don't think there's very much that, like, I don't know about iterative advancements on what we've already got. I feel like they're pretty good in terms of economic changes, anyway. At least JGRs. JGRs, it's pretty much as close to a tycoon game as you're ever gonna, or as advanced of a tycoon game as you're ever gonna hope to get, because it's the iteration of everything on top of OpenTTD, which was already a pretty good game on its own. But it's taking basically 20 plus years, 30 years almost of community suggestions and piling them into the game. Yeah, I should write this down. I mean, it really should just be like remove depots and add these 3 buildings. Add an engine house, add, or, again, keep the depots maybe, and, add an erecting hall where you can buy stuff. Even, I'll just simplify it, so you can buy whole train sets at once, because why would you not want to do that? An erecting hall where you can buy train sets, a switch yard where you can automate your switching maneuvers, and a keep clicking on the wrong tab, and the depot, which you can no longer purchase things at, but will still maintain your stuff. I think those are the most basic changes that you could make. Without any, like, balancing changes, without anything like that. Erecting hall is very expensive, and you get one for free with your company headquarters. A depot is the same as a current depot is. And a switchyard is, medium expensive, but not like, it's not going to break the bank. Probably just expensive to maintain. Alright, let's do this. Other than that, yeah, I mean, that's it. RIP Alco Simulator. But yeah, if you wanted to take it further, then you get into, like, changing how reliability works and changing how, purchasing things separately. Like having your erecting hall only make locomotives and having your coach yard only make cars. But the only reason I wouldn't want to do that is because it breaks template replace. So maybe you have a combination. Or maybe you just load those things into a switch yard and then do the template replace using the switch yard. I don't know. Also, the other problem is, how do you get the cars out of the coach yard? That's the other issue. And then doing that for ships. I mean, honestly, ships just being... The thing is, ships always need to go... You know, they need to get dry docked every once in a while. I think just reliability going down very slowly is a way to set a lot of things right. Yep. Where is the doorstop? I am looking for these. And really what we'd have if we put these together is, like, railroad management simulator, not a tycoon game. See, the thing is, I would also love, sort of rail route style dispatching, but that does not have its place in every game, that's for sure. Also, I love how once upon a time I was like, oh, Railroad has saved me, you know, hundreds of dollars because I didn't have to buy Run 8, and then I bought Run 8. Oh well. It saved me money for a little while. Right. It's tough to keep track of what I've covered and what I haven't. I should have only deleted the, I should have only deleted this stuff, that's, you know, the things. The rulers off of roads that I've completed so that I would know which ones I've completed. Oh well. What I'm thinking for switching is that you specify what carloads need to go where, and then the yard sorts cars. Yeah, no, and that would be... That's... I feel like that's tough. Once a cut of cars is ready to go somewhere else, the nearest roundhouse dispatches the next available locomotive to take the train. Yeah, see, that's... Now you're talking about other game stuff. I feel like. I'm trying to operate solely within the... Within, like, what I feel OpenTTD is... Oops. Capable of? Well, not capable of, but, like, that fits into the game. Having a... Although, in fairness, having a train sit... Having a locomotive sit in the... No, I guess it is possible. Having a locomotive sit in the... in a depot, or even at a signal, until a certain condition is fulfilled. That's doable. I mean, having a locomotive sit in a depot until a certain condition is fulfilled, I think we can do that now. I'm not, and I wasn't ever really. What do you mean? I'm just saying, like, I think that is something outside of fitting in OpenTTD. I don't know why, just the... I'm not necessarily pitching a system workable in OBD. Yeah, that's what I said. Is it not what I said? I said you're talking about other game stuff. Anyway, point is, I see your railroad management simulator, and I would like those things in OpenTTD. Similar things. Again, I think you can sort of do wait here until a condition is satisfied. I'm not entirely sure how, but there are conditional orders already. And I know that some of the conditional orders are like, just don't do anything until or like check if the next station has a certain cargo. Um, One of the trains that I did in my first test of Extreme, or Triple X mode rather, was it served two different coal mines, and one of them was producing much more than the other. So it would serve the more productive one all the time, but every time it drove by the switch, it had a conditional order that said, hey, if there's enough coal waiting at the other coal mine, go there instead. And that that allowed me to do two locomotives work for the price of one, basically. Uh, and that made that profitable. Otherwise, it wasn't. Even with the locomotive, even just going to the uh, productive one, it wasn't quite profitable because it would wait there for too long. But balancing it out by sending it to the other one, sometimes, every once in a while, let it haul more cargo. Yeah, the thing with sorting stuff out, and this is the reason why I went back to a uh, like stuff just happens in a building. Either it's going to happen to my magic anyway, which is fair because you could just throw down a yard of a certain size and capability, and then it will do that, which I think is not a bad idea, not a bad way to handle it. Or you are tasked with the okay, how do I make a yard work? How do I make a game understand how to make a yard work? Did you find the door stopper?
I did.
Okay, do you need me to put it in the door?
I would like that.
Okay. Oop. Are you just standing behind me menacingly?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'm
Yeah.
scared.
Ah!
Ah!
You should be!
Alright. I will go and take care of that in just a second. I'm building some dirt
I see
roads. They're beautiful, aren't they?
Gorgeous.
Don't answer that. Oh, okay.
They're very gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out what the new expansion pack is for The Sims.
What is it?
It's called Growing Together, so basically like a generations pack.
Okay.
And what they release the baby update to everybody. Everybody gets the baby update if they don't get the expansion pack.
Okay.
So
With like the other life stage.
yeah.
Okay.
They're also adding
the
a lot
baby.
of updates though too. So
Speaking of yards, function like a building, but just one that looks like a rail yard instead of a shed. Yeah, I feel like if you're making it its own thing, it's totally workable to have it sort of look like a rail yard, and a you have by default like a track or two that are arrival and departure tracks, and then your storage tracks, and the locomotive pulls in, and then the cars just sort of pop off the locomotive and sort into their specific tracks, uh, which I think is hopefully similar to what you're thinking, and I think it would work. And then the locomotive shuffles off to a roundhouse and awaits like a reason to leave. Yeah, that. No, I could see that. I could see that working. I don't think it would be a game on its own. Probably. I mean, maybe it would be, but it would just be more about like putting together the orders for the yard and how it works. Um, I don't know. That's a tricky one, but either way, I think in a tycoon game, I would like that. Uh, yeah, I saw. Exciting. Uh, Optionally, you could assign like a yard switcher, or depending what's assigned, this bigger or smaller delay on car sorting. Yeah, that would be something. All right, let me go stick a thing in a thing. I'll be right back. I don't know if the audience can see the cat. Oh, no, but they can see you doing this.
Oh.
No, I cannot. It is on the internet for all time. I'd like. Oh yeah, no. My idea was something like that in OpenTTD, or a way to adapt your concept to something that might be feasible in OpenTTD, I suppose. Uh, I think a weird spin-off of this was now I'm thinking of a game with an art style not unlike Conduct Deluxe, um, where you are the one running the yard and trains are just coming in, and you have to sort out the stuff and get them ready to leave in a certain amount of time, which would be kind of neat, um, especially if it's a little cartoony and you can like drive very quickly around the yard. Um, you get points for not getting in the way of other trains. I don't know. Or maybe you just like stuff explodes if you get in the way, which is always like a 10 out of 10 way to handle things. Conduct Deluxe is a very funny game. I think I had it on my wish. I think it might still be on my wish list. I don't think it's for me. I think it's too stressful. Um, I can't do that. I'll watch Heist play it, but I don't know if I would. Um, there we go. Lafayette. Let's put this. Banging got boogies. But this area is starting to get polished. To come back to what we're actually here to do, this area is beginning to get polished, and I am glad to say that we'll be able to move on from a lot of this grid stuff. Well, this specific grid stuff, we have way more grid stuff to do, incidentally. Let's grab this and fill in that little spot right there. We really want to make sure all these are gone. And then we have to come through and do grass. Alright. Stop sitting on my foot. These are just so much inspired by the Rust Belt. Nice. Okay. Let's look at this. But yeah, I do think having a switchyard building would be within the capability of OpenTTD. I think, I hope. But nevertheless, it's something that I feel like would get fairly rarely used. Because most of the time, the runs are short enough that you're not changing out engines for cars. It might make sense if you were on much larger maps and much slower time scales, where you can have a locomotive do several different things. As it stands right now, even on 1/10 speed, having a locomotive do more than one job, or at least certainly more than two, is virtually impossible. Because industries produce too quickly. It's funny to bring it back. That's something that I was sort of trying to take care of in this map, and something that I am like specifically explicitly ignoring in the MPS map, because it's like Here, I want the industries to all get served, and I don't want it to be just train insanity. And even then, I have to scale them up because these industries realistically would not be producing every day. Uh, and in MPS, I want kind of the opposite. I want stuff to always be operable. Of course, if an industry needs something to produce something else, then okay, maybe not. But having them sort of operable, I think is having a producer industry. Always, you can always go get more coal from the coal mine. You can always go get more grain from the grain elevator, within reason. I don't want them to be bottomless sinks or bottomless whatevers. But I do want it to be enough so that you're never going like, well, I'll have to do that tomorrow. You go, oh, I want to get some out of this, so I got to go get grain from over here. Let's send a train to get grain from over there. More than I would like the MPS to be everything that I'd like the MPS to be everything that we want OpenTTD to be. All right. I'll have to experiment more with that tonight. I mean, maybe I will hop on afterward. Maybe I'll just go in the Discord or something, but I just need to know how things get when I get the thing. Honestly, cranking up the repair cost too much in OpenTTD, I just don't know if it's I don't know if it's like viable is the word. I don't know if it'll have the right kind of impact or if it'll just make things completely untenable. You can schedule all your maintenance, or you could just leave it alone, and it'll be every 5 months, maybe, if it feels like it. Baby, did you put the beef back in the fridge? Thank you. It just occurred to me. I'm hungry. I don't know where it is. Possibly, but I don't want to eat that right now. He's so elegant. I'm just gonna put grass on top of these roads, at least close in. I don't know if that's better or worse. I kind of like it, but it doesn't look good, really. And also, doing that for all of these is, frankly, nightmarish. It's a lot of splines. I could be here all night. It's already 9 o'clock. But either way, I am going to do this, and then... I mean, I guess I'll just leave the roads kind of shakwad as they are. Not the biggest deal. But I should have centered them before doing... Yeah, okay. We're gonna go through and fix the roads. They're not perfectly straight. Nobody here owned a plumb bob. There we go. There should be meta jokes in The Sims where engineers can take the plumb bob off their head and use it. It's how they know they're in a simulation. It's how we know they know they're in a simulation. But how do we know we're in a simulation? Well, I'll tell you. Just kidding. I can't tell you. Because they might kick you out. If you know. Or they might end the simulation. That's how the world's gonna end. It's just gonna, like, click off. Somebody shut off the computer that we're all living inside of. You'll never know. okay, maybe that's not going to happen. But either way, I was looking back. I have spent a little bit of time sort of sorting out my YouTube channel page lately. I've wanted to make like a how to do trading cards thing, like how to use them, because stuff does better with trailers on Kickstarter, and that would also probably be like the pigeons are the master behind the simulation. Yeah, birds aren't real, um, and that would be a good way to like put something up on the channel that's like, hey, if you just bought trading cards, this is what you do with them. This is how you play Locomotive Versus. But I don't know. I have been sorting through some stuff and looked at some old episodes and it's funny titles that I made for things like Thoughts of the Apocalypse. Look at looking at my channel like right before I made The End of Days, and sort of the things that led up to it, because I feel like while that wasn't the thing that like kicked off everything, I sort of slowly grew over time uh, with doing trains and doing locomotion and a little bit of Minecraft. I don't feel like anyone really came for the Minecraft stuff, but there were and are a zillion people doing Minecraft on YouTube. I wasn't special in that regard, but I was fairly unique in doing locomotion stuff, and and train stuff. And there are still some people out there that do this. And honestly, I was kind of expecting a higher, uh, like a better response when I did Open TTD a little while ago. A couple weeks ago now. But either way, it was just like, oh, this is what my channel's here for. And yeah, in a way, The End of Days was me testing out the waters and doing narrative stuff, and you could probably see how it sort of pointed in the direction of me eventually making something like the Iron Horseman Chronicles. But it's just sort of a weird, it feels almost like a weird outlier. It feels like the channel could have been something totally different. But then you look at it in the context of I ended up doing Zombie Train stories, like Q&A stuff for years and years afterward, and it's like, well, okay, it isn't that weird. Um, but when people talk about, like, knowing me and knowing my channel, it's almost always locomotion. It's almost always locomotion and sometimes trains. Very rarely is it someone who came because, like, they remember the zombie train, uh, or any of the other random stuff I did, like Homeworld or XCOM. No, I still didn't do XCOM. Love to someday. Homeworld or FTL. I did a lot of FTL. I did Total War. Um, I sifted through some of the stuff, and there were games that I didn't even remember playing on the channel, and there they are. But it's not stuff that I'm remembered or recognized for. Of course, the elephant in the room is the Iron Horseman Chronicles, was which generated a better fan base, or a stronger fan base than anything that I had made in a much shorter period of time. I mean, people like that content, I guess. There's plenty of train series out there for a reason, and a lot of them get talked about, for better or for worse, but in some ways, any publicity is good publicity. Um, if people are talking about how cringy a train series is, they're still talking about it, and it's still attention paid. I mean, I'm not saying that it's good for people to be watching it ironically, but in order for that, the notion of its existence to get out there, people must have seen it and shared it. So maybe it's not so much any publicity is good publicity as it is publicity. That discussion is proof of attention, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think that's how the Iron Horseman necessarily was received. Certainly not that I've ever heard, but I'm probably insulated from a lot of that because people don't come into the Iron Horseman Discord server to tell me how mediocre my work is. A little bit of confirmation bias there, perhaps. Point is, uh, there is not a market per se, but there is a fan base that will gladly take that stuff. There is a potential fan base. People will eat it up. You know, people grow up with Thomas and Friends, grow up with Dinosaur Train, even like these other Chuggington, these newer things. They grow up with that, and then they get to a stage where the childish stuff is behind them, but they still like trains, or they like the concept of giving vehicles a personality. And this sort of intermediate stuff, I feel like, grabs adolescence in a way that nothing else really does. I need to put watching the Iron Horseman Chronicles higher on my to-do list. Do you, though? Eh. It's going to be there. It's not going anywhere. Uh, I'm so loath to get rid of stuff, you know. Even if it was like an atrocious cringe fest, which it isn't. I feel like a lot of it is perhaps decently, moderately well crafted. Some of the episodes are genuinely good, but for what it is anyway. Uh, but even if it wasn't, I don't think I'd be hiding that. Even give me the outsider's perspective. Oh God, no, my poor ego can't handle this. But genuinely, even the stuff that is like, wow, that's cringy, like the weekly timetables and hey, stop eating the cat bed. Um, the weekly timetables and the old Admiral Ellis stuff. Talk about writing a self-insert character. It's all still there. I mean, it's not like you can Lafayette, stop it. It's not like you can search it on just regular YouTube search and find it. But the playlists still exist on the original Admiral Ellis YouTube channel, which is now the Iron Horseman community channel. So, hey, stop. He's got to stop. He's licking the bed because he wants to eat it. He wants to eat the cat bed. Caught him eating chunks of foam out of it. He's a maniac. I don't know if he thinks it tastes good or what. There we go. Kind of want to know what this looks like in driver, but I don't feel like switching to driver. This is really just putting the sort of garnish on this area that we've worked on. Although we did throw down another 8 field segments, 8 field chunks earlier, like one of the first things we did. So the thing is, if this is how much effort it's going to be, well, maybe we can still copy paste some of the splines and then just tidy it up afterward. Once we finish all the stuff in the square fields, could we just copy paste all that? I mean, it's farm fields. It shouldn't be particularly exciting. We've got to do this all along here, but this is not, this isn't even on the edge of the copy pasting section. It's all the other side of the road stuff, and the road being at a diagonal precludes me from doing that. So I will still have work to do, that's for sure. But once we cross the river, it's straight on till Bellington and South Bellington. I am kind of avoiding doing Pan Am right now. I just don't feel like it. I feel like we're still missing chunks of what needs to be in there, and until then, I can't start doing trees and grass and ground texture. So, I don't want to have the half done town. I sort of want to do it in stages. But it is a fairly, I mean, it's not large, but it's definitely going to be a lot of work. So maybe I should just bite the bullet and start detailing the blocks that I know are done, where I have the building placement sort of down, I guess. And the rest of it will just come when it comes. I don't know. I don't know how good of an idea that is. As long as we've got other stuff to do and we're not procrastinating by, like, moving on. You know, this I I have this mantra that you guys have probably all heard a million times before now, which is that as long as you're doing something productive, you're not procrastinating. In this case, you know, I'm sitting down here for uh, 3 hours out of, I almost said 3 months out of the year. Yeah, right. 3 hours out of my week to make Tollbrand. And no matter what I'm doing, I mean, I suppose aside from AI and spreadsheets, I am getting closer to the ultimate goal of having the route completed. Yeah, including AI and spreadsheets, I'm getting closer to the ultimate goal of having the route automated. But that's something that, as I've mentioned before, with changes in Trainz, might completely invalidate. It might be completely invalidated by the desire to make a world operable in the way that I want, like, sort of in the way that I want it to be operable as a result, from a result standpoint, but not from a procedure standpoint. Um, so, you know, there we go. Anyway, Graham isn't here, but I suppose I'll continue to fill airtime by giving a Volvo update, which is that I got the wagon back from Tony, and it had a starting issue where when it was warm it would not start. Now, it starts no matter when you want it to. However, you do need to manually energize the alternator every time, which was a problem a long time ago. It was a problem uh, back when Gloria and I drove out to Chicago. I had to energize the starter repeatedly on the way back, and that's when I had no gauges. But I still have gauges now. So one of the problems, or half of the problem, is fixed, but hopefully the problem is narrowed down, and I just haven't been able to talk to Tony. I haven't had the time to sort of give him the rundown of where the situation is. And this is the wrong grass. We're using the wrong grass. We've done it again. I need to use this grass for the side of the tracks. But once once that's all said and done, hopefully that'll be like it, and then I just need to do regular maintenance stuff. I know I need brake work. I need some bits of plastic, but that's pretty low priority. The rubber around the hatch, which is brand new, started to come loose. It popped out of the seam it's supposed to be in. But other than that, the wagon is doing pretty good now. The 940 needs an alignment, but is otherwise doing okay. I just don't have a place to get it in alignment nearby. I don't want to go to one of the big tire shops. Mostly because they're far away, not because I'm being anti-corporate. Uh, though there ain't nothing wrong with that. I, um... I just don't feel like driving all the way to where they are, which is like a whole 10 minutes away. But it's like an hour of my day, because then I've got to sit there while they do the alignment. I would ideally like a place that's like near my job, so I can go and drop the car off and then go to work and then come back and pick the car up when I go home, or even just drop it off during lunch or so, which I suppose I could do anyway, but I don't usually take a lunch. I don't take my hour lunch because I want to be out of work as quickly as possible. I want to get in at 9 and leave at 5. And there's no such thing as a paid lunch hour anymore. So if I'm working 8 hours, I'm working 8 hours. If there's still a place with a paid lunch hour, that's very cash money of them, and you should be happy. Uh, just doesn't happen anymore. The dying world that Bruce Springsteen sings about. Right, give me this, because it's getting too narrow for these. But, yeah, then I have to be there an hour longer. Now, I want to be able to drop it off during the day and then walk to work from where it is. And then pick it up, or walk over to where it is in the evening and pick it up. And then go home. I mean, I've been avoiding driving to work in the first place, not just because the cars have been a pain on the neck, but because they put up a million speed bumps on Manton Avenue. I don't want to drive down it anymore. When I go to pick up Gloria, I go like the long way so that I can avoid the speed bumps, which in essence is, I guess they've solved the problem because they don't have cars speeding through there because they don't have cars going through there. Which, you know, in a way is helpful. I mean, I take the bus now. They instituted a traffic calming measure that's so annoying that I don't want to drive. Mission accomplished, City of Providence. And I only mean that partially facetiously. I think they're stupid and a pain in the butt. But I will admit that there are some blind corners that people were whipping around, and the speed bumps have slowed people down. For me, I have the choice to not drive, so I take that choice. Now, if only they could install, like, some spike strips that pop up and shred the tires of ATVs when hooligans go riding those down the street. That would be, you know, that'd be good. They pop up and shred the tires of the mayor's car or something. You know, is it just me, or did kids' shows place, and probably still do place, a really heavy, like, responsibility on the mayor of a town? Like, more so than is ever really present in real life. Phase 2 Lobby for Heritage streetcar system. Yeah, no, honestly, a streetcar on Chalkstone Avenue or on Manton Avenue would be fantastic. I would, I would love that. Wouldn't really happen because, I mean, to be completely honest, there is no good way around. If you were to force, and the streets are too crowded to deal with streetcar in traffic. If you were to force all of Manton Avenue's traffic onto Chalkstone Avenue, it would be a catastrophe. If you were to force all of Chalkstone Avenue's traffic onto Manton Avenue, it would be an even worse catastrophe because the hospitals are over there. There isn't enough right-of-way to separate them. The only thing you could realistically, reasonably do is reinstate the passcode branch, but that's a bike path. There's still probably enough right-of-way through a lot of that where you could squeeze in a single rail line. Probably not on the same side of the river as it used to be, but you know that's a major part of the gentrification of the neighborhood. So you can't get rid of that. As much as I find it kind of useless, having some sort of bike infrastructure on Manton Avenue would be better because it's just easier to bike. I've never been like not anti-rail trail so much, just like anti having a bike path, or like worse bike infrastructure would be better. Because let's face it, having a totally separated thing is better. But in this case it's not. In this case it's not good. I don't like the bike path here. It's just a pain. It's not easy to ride on because the hills suck. Yes, it's old railroad grade, but they had to make sacrifices. So it's just not not as typical railroad grade flatness as one would expect or ever hope for on a bike path. Rather, how dare I shade the Woonasquatucket Greenway? I'm shading it. It's not good. like as a concept it's great, but if I'm riding my bike, I'm just gonna do it on Manton Avenue. And that's stupid because Manton Avenue is dangerous and I'm going to die someday. Uh, but I just don't want to deal with the ludicrous hills where they decided they needed to connect the bike path to other pieces of pedestrian infrastructure, which is again a smart thing to do. I can't shade it like from the point of view that it was a poor decision to construct. I just don't like it. Um, I just don't like dealing with that just like it's way out of the way for me. And it's not even that far out of the way. It just feels like it is. To get up to Atlantic Mills, you've got to go up this hill, and then you go down to get to the bike path, then you got to go up again, and then you got to go down. It doesn't even do it justice. Like the Google, Google is like, yeah, here's your biking route. Here's your like gradient over the course of the route. It doesn't do it justice. It doesn't show you how much it sucks. I don't know if it's just not granular enough because it doesn't like show you go up and then back down in such a short length of time, but something's off. Something's not right about it. It's just that there's the thing is in my neighborhood and in my neighborhoods from where I am to Oneyville to downtown Providence, there are only a handful of locations where you could squeeze in more infrastructure for transportation at all. We're talking even car infrastructure. It's just jammed. Most of the major roads around here are one lane in each direction because that's all there's room for. These are ancient streets, relatively speaking. And the fact that the greenway is there is a good thing because it means you can get stuff out of the way. But a greenway is not a people mover. A greenway isn't transit. It's nice to have the bikes, but you need more than just bikes. Uh, Realistically, because it's a greenway, it's more of a park than useful transit or transit infrastructure, and it just doesn't have very much density overall. I immediately adjacent it anyway. It's in the woods. Um, it's in the strip of woods that is along the Woonasquatucket River. It's not really woods, but it's something. I don't know. I have such mixed feelings, as you guys probably understand by now. Honestly, there are some better bike paths in areas where there's enough like room to build infrastructure out of the already wide streets. Like the Washington Secondary Trail is probably fine staying as a bike path, and maybe I would feel differently if I was in the area, if I still lived in the area. But it is a long bike path. It connects suburban areas to suburban areas to suburban areas. It is very easy to ride because it is dead flat. Um, and you have other major thoroughfares that lanes could be sacrificed from. Reservoir Avenue comes to mind. Reservoir Avenue could do with a road diet. You'd probably be okay with one lane in each direction and a suicide lane in the middle. They did it on Jefferson Boulevard. They did it on Route 113. Reservoir Avenue is a very major thoroughfare, but if you were to supplant that road diet with some sort of transit, I feel like you could get some good mileage out of it. That's the one that comes to mind. Killingly Street also comes to mind, and there was a trolley on Killingly Street once upon a time that ran all the way to Plainfield Street. The There's a stone building at Uniconticut Hill that's the old trolley stop. I wish that NIMBY Rails cared more about things like terrain and traffic. What would be? Uh, because then they would be a better simulation of what it takes to make a transit system. In fact, if you could snap your stuff to street running and then say, crazily enough, say it would take real-time traffic data from Google, and that would slow down your stuff by X amount. That would be a really cool update. That would be a really cool way to do it. Um, right now, I think street running stuff has a minimum, or sorry, a relatively low maximum speed. Honestly, that'd probably be fine. Even if it was like 40 miles an hour, that'd probably be fine. But yeah, I wish Nimby Rails was a better game than it is. I have a lot of gripes with it because I feel like it is such a cool concept. Sort of like if Hemlock or Hemlock and I were to take our myriad of ideas from earlier today or from earlier this stream and turn them into a game. It's like you've got the bones of a thing that could be a game, but you're missing a lot. Uh, yes, your child. Uh, also Ellis. How do you feel about streaming MPS? I would feel like that's another thing I have to do. Um, I don't see. The thing is, if I'm streaming MPS, I'm probably gonna be doing like this, and I don't want to do more of this. Um, but streaming MPS, if I'm doing more like railroad building stuff, then maybe. I was talking about MPS earlier in the stream and saying I don't really know what I want to do. Because the thing I want to do more than anything is make industries work and do automation. But the automation is not there yet. We know that much. Uh, it's it's starting to exist, but it's not there yet. And I don't feel like doing more construction. I don't feel like doing more scenery. Um, and obviously, I mean, it's MPS. It doesn't really matter. It's not Tolbrin. I don't want to hold it to this standard. And even then, the standard is not very high. But if anything, it would be, I would rather be doing operations side stuff, which is why I created the spreadsheet. Um, which, honestly, what I would do on MPS, I would stream driving trains. It would be sort of a Mondays at Hobart situation where that's what I would be doing. Um, we just don't have a lot of railroad to drive trains on yet. I mean, we do. It's just not like done. I was tempted to start the stream on MPS very briefly. But we also only have one working industry, so that also puts a damper on things. Um, oh, we need industry links. Please tell me somebody put an industry link in their content pack. We really need that. Uh, and if no one has done so, please just Eastrail my son. Please make a note of it in the MPS channel so that someone may include that in their content pack if we do not have it already. It would be very, very nice to have for doing industry stuff. So, yeah, that's the beginning of it. And then, yeah, I have this spreadsheet that I want to work on as we get more industries in, but like I said, we only have one right now. I don't think anyone's responded to the survey. At least no one has told me they've responded to the survey. Not that I asked. But once we have that, then yeah, then I can start running trains and fulfilling these waybills, so to speak. That's what I would do on MPS if I were to stream it. But I don't have time. I would like to. But that comes back to what am I doing there? You know, if I'm going on, I've got this belt line that I'm supposed to be making. I just don't know if I feel like it. And I need to think about what's going into uh, I mean, even Edgar, for example, the town to the north of us that is the town to the north of the town Easton I have, which is Savannah. Um, I just don't know if I don't know if stuff would be coming in, if it would be going out, if it would be only passing through. You know, um, just sort of have to talk to Kevon about what his plans are, and also talk to him about this deal he asked me, which I talked about at the beginning of the show, which I still don't know what to make of or what to do with. Uh, I'm not sure if that's just him extending the olive branch because of the previous debacle, or if it's him not wanting to do more track work. I don't know. Um, I just need to get a better understanding before I agree to anything. Because unlike the other thing, I am afraid I'm going to be like a disappointment on the MPS server. There are things that it will get me engaged. I just listed them all. But as for hopping on like I do Tolbrind and working methodically, I don't think it's going to happen. I've already got this to worry about, you know? I would like to do stuff on the MPS server, on the MPS route to sort of show it off, but I think that's limited to me driving around on it. That said, I would hope people would go for that. We could have good old Sunday driving again. Everybody misses Sunday driving. Nice. Just don't commit to stuff and then you can hop in. Don't overcommit to stuff and then you can hop in whenever. Well, of course. Uh, but when overcommitting is like any amount of effort for me. Who knows? I just don't want to have another obligation. I feel like I've already overcommitted. Just because I'm on the map at all. Like, oh, I'm gonna up the game. They never build out of Geiger. Yeah. Oh, building UP the game. Not a formal thing. Yeah, I know that. I know it's not formal, but, you know. I try to treat everything with an amount of seriousness. And doing a scene for me is still practically a non-starter. Just don't want to do it. I know what I've got to do because I'm on the map, but, you know, I don't feel like doing it. That said, there are certain things that, like I said, that do tickle my brain. Alright. How close are we to wrapping this up? Well, we've got stuff up to about here. So I'm going to go with not close. Why didn't I think of doing this before? Why didn't I do things in stages more? You know, when we started MPS quite some time ago, it was a different situation. It was in the before times. I mean, wasn't it? When did we first make that MPS plan? It was at least a few years ago. At least a couple years ago. Was it in the before times? Yeah. Oh, because I started building out Savannah. Or at least I started putting buildings down. And I'm just like, I don't want to do another town. I've already got towns to do over here. Let me place a spline point. Thank you. Right there. We did that when they made the original Trainz announcement. We did make 3 different iterations of the planning. Um, the thing is, we have like our bylaws for the Geiger region. We all took way too seriously, yeah. Um, that we're supposed to lay out like how you deal with arranging this stuff, and then I feel like all of that's been forgotten. Uh, and the only thing I'm concerned, the only reason it concerns me, is because there will almost certainly be instances where, if this carries on and people do end up working on it, there are going to be situations where people have to cross. Um, I mean, I'm already facing that. I mean, East and I did that immediately in Savannah, um, where I come in on one side and then I go out on the other, and I'm gonna do that again in Edgar, but I don't know how. And I was thinking to shake things up, having a little bit of a high bridge, but to come back to it, I need to know like how much my railroad needs to get into Edgar. Oh, and the other thing is, I am supposed to go down like south. I think if I remember the map, I need to recheck the map. I think I am supposed to go down south to where there may be an oceanside. That was Jader's original town down there. I'd have to ask him about that, if we could adapt that to be a port. Because again, I want a place to take this grain more than anything. Which would be a good reason for me to go into Edgar, instead of that grain just going into Geiger City. And so this is what gets my brain turning. Talking about the cargo flows, talking about the big picture. I I can't bear to put a second route on my plate when it comes to doing scenery, which again I think is why it's part of the reason Kevon uh, gave his little proposition to me, and that I still haven't like said anything about. Uh, but could just be the planning guy. Yeah, but I'm already on the map. Uh, I think as time goes on, I may become the planning guy. It's possible that my route never totally materializes, but I know that as we get things done, I'm gonna want to have something to work on. It's just there's already too much to work on. That said, East, if you want to do a stream insofar as we get together and work on Savannah, then that I might be down for. That's the underrated thing. That the thing that I think I'm missing here is doing things as a get together collaborative effort instead of a collaborative effort like the Iron Horseman route where we work on our different pieces and then stick them together. Uh, it can be more of a social event than than this, which is me sitting by myself talking to 30-second delayed responses from the 2 people that are left. Oh, 3 people. Alright, there we go. Let's see, we've got half an hour left. I want to wrap this part of it up. We still have some stuff to do up here, so let's finish this off first. But yeah, I did always want to be the planning guy. I just also wanted to build something when I had time to build more than one thing. It was a different time. Oh, I went over the line a little bit here. Let's take care of that. Or is this the one that I replaced? No, it's not. This is, actually. So I did just go over the line. Oh well. But yeah, if I'm doing the logistics, if I'm doing the this needs to go here, this needs to go here, that would make me happy. Because then I'm doing spreadsheets more than I'm doing route building. This is my route building fill. Although, the planning for Geiger Union was very cool. And it looks like it's going to turn out pretty good, and the work that's getting done in Geiger City is honestly fantastic. And I will sort of go back to the thought I had with Bender earlier, which is that been out for a minute. Did I miss anything? Not that much. I mean, it did a Volvo update. What's the last thing you heard? Um, oh yeah, update on Moose is he's still sitting there. I don't want to mess with him. Every time I turn him on, I find something new that's broken. So I'm just leaving him alone for now. The wagon does need an inspection though. I forgot about that. Missed the boat on that. But yeah, talking about MPS and sort of getting through the. I'm a big track laying fan myself. Yeah, that's fun. You know, people like different things. I like track laying because I like the sort of engineering aspect of it. I like track laying when it's track laying, but I've got to get through a piece of terrain that I already built, um, or design a yard that works. You know, uh, those things are best when you have the constraints already in mind. Otherwise, you just build something and then you start trying to use it and you realize the flaws with it because you didn't know what you needed when you started. And that's one of my biggest issues with Tolbrand and with everything else, um, where I find tycoon games more engaging than simulators. And I find the logistics side of it and the engineering side of it more interesting than the driving side of it. There's a reason that I, I prefer Railroute to Run 8, to go back to those two things. And while Derail Valley is cool, I was always looking for a mod, that'd be the Persistent Jobs mod, really, that makes it more of a, or makes it less of just a pick up cars, drive them somewhere, drop them off sort of simulator. Um, I want more than that. I want to have to think. Uh, and track laying is fun, but track laying with a purpose and constraints is more fun. Uh, and again, to come back to the yard thing, when you build a yard where you don't know what you're going to end up using it for, and then you set up the industries, and then you set up its connections, and you go like, oh crap, you know, I don't have enough stalls in this roundhouse. I don't have enough tracks in this yard. The yard lead is built weirdly for the industries, the industries that are coming off of this track. I don't have a place to put a caboose. Some of these are simple things that you can fix, and that are just like oversights. But some of them are like, okay, I'm gonna need to tear down this yard and rebuild it in a way that actually works for me. Um, Say them half and half. I love Railroad, but I also love running trains. Yeah, and that's, you know, there are plenty of people that are meet me in the middle sort of folks, that all of it is fun to them. And you know what I say to those people? Play Railroads Online. um, and that isn't really a joke. Despite the thing's bugs, it does have this blend of tycoon and simulator that basically nothing else has. Nothing else that I can think of, certainly. And not really anything that I know of that's on the horizon. So there's a reason why it has persevered, number one, and why it was such a big thing when it came out, despite being the buggy catastrophe it was and is. Uh, Not too many other games let you have both. Not really any that I can think of. Um, but yeah, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Point is, Oh, I wanted to talk about the yards that I've built, but I've still got all this to take care of with in terms of splines, etc. Um, Still got another like 8 grid squares to do. Take care of that. Um, and I've noticed that these are much narrower. These strips of brown are much narrower on the copy-pasted ones, which is an interesting consequence that I didn't necessarily expect. Um, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly. I mean, here we can just draw down the middle, so that's not a bad thing. But it does give less room for error. Play the hell out of RO if my college laptop didn't run like a slideshow in the lowest settings. You gonna tell me afterward?
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, Love tea. So, yeah, and that's Mew. That's also the reason that I am not playing RO right now. I was very tempted to boot it up and play the other day, and I was just like, yeah, but my computer hates it, so I'm not gonna deal with that. My internet connection is strong enough, but when I would run stuff for the community playdates, it just would have a bad time. Um, so there we go. Let's do this. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the yards that we have on Tolbrin because I feel like I am lost in possibilities every time I go to build a yard because I don't know what the industries are going to be yet because I haven't divined all that ahead of time, and that's not that is not a thing that you should necessarily be doing when building a route in Trainz. You don't need to know all of the details before you get there. Um, and that's something that I have talked about at length before. It's just you can't sit here and expect to know what all of the industries are going to be when you start building, because at that point you're just stifling your own creativity. At that point you are setting aside the ability to like change stuff in the moment and ad lib your route in exchange for having all these constraints that you already know about, I guess. Um, in exchange for not having to wonder or worry if the things that you're building are going to be good enough. But the thing is, you take all the creativity out of it, and you're not going to want to build anymore. Um, if I knew what all these blocks were going to be when I got here, I I don't think I would have enjoyed myself as much putting these buildings down because we made adjustments based on the buildings that we had, um, and stuff that we found. And if we look at something like this, like I know I'm going to have to expand upon this. There's no storage in this yard. It's barely a yard. There's 2 tracks. And yeah, everything here is going to go back to Bellington, but if this is producing, 3 cars, and this is producing 20 cars, this is 1. Yeah, we have barely enough room here to deal with this. There's no overflow capability at all. Um, to bring a train in here when there's already stuff on the sidings, it's not good. It doesn't work. Who pinged me? Oh, is anyone? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Server broke. They broke MPS again. Anyway, I feel like having at least one other track here is going to be important. I just don't know where to put it, and I don't know if I'm missing something. I don't know what this factory does. I don't know how much this is going to produce. I don't know if this is just going to be a team track, or this is going to be something else. I do see the screenshot and it looks very nice. Um, and there's other stuff. You know, I talked about putting stuff on this side of the tracks, which is a kind of a not a good idea if you ask me. But the idea is there. And also staging for the run out to Jasper Mills, which would be handled by a locomotive from up there. And of course, it's going to occupy the main while it does it. Opposite Union Station. Yeah, I saw the park that you guys were putting there. It looks very good. It does look really cool. Geiger looks fantastic. And I will definitely, I mean, part of me wants me to sort of wet my whistle uh, by working over there with you guys. But at the same time, I don't feel like, uh, you know, it's sort of as practice for my own major city. But at the same time, I don't feel like it. Oh man, I don't feel like doing it. I know it'll probably be beneficial to me, but you know, we've got this runaround, and I'm thinking, because, and now let me do this. Let me go into seed, because now I'm thinking about this. I'm tired of doing that. Let's see. Yeah, so we've got these guys. And this is a train in and of itself, you know. There are no engines stored here. So we would just have these for use with this. Which, honestly, this is... Bye, baby. These take 60k. So if this thing produces... Beckman. If this thing produces 20 carloads... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Which is a not unreasonable number of cars to come out of this thing. And it's a pretty good sized grain elevator. And it is off season, but I'm trying to make things run. So maybe even if we just have 15. So it would be just this stretch of cars, and this would be empty. For storage stuff. I mean, honestly, you'd kind of need that to be empty so that when you're doing switching moves, the AI doesn't get angry at you. Unless you want to put a derailleur over here, which honestly is a totally viable thing to do. Oh, you know what we should make? Are we doing an interurban in, or like a trolley system in Geiger? Or yeah, in Geiger. Because we should have a trolley park somewhere. That would be cool. I know every layout's got to have the amusement park area. We have an interurban right now. Cool. Yeah. Having a bona fide trolley park would be very cool. Alright, so I'm going to look at this right now. Okay, let's talk about yards again. Because again, this is like bare bones. This is as small as this yard is ever going to need to be. Maybe even if I wanted to really be extravagant about it, if I really wanted to cut it down, you put in a third overgrown track. Yeah, and I might do that in the future when we come through to do the scenery. I was even thinking about a third track would make sense here, even just for expansion purposes. I was also just thinking about cutting this down to just the singular track and sinking this one in a little bit, but still leaving it attached. It would just be, you know, a little run down looking. Now let's look at some of the one yard that I think has come out pretty well, which is this. Because there isn't a lot of industry here, and it isn't right up along the yard. We have 4 stub tracks here that are more or less for disseminating things to different locations. We have this track for stuff that's going that way. We have this track for stuff that's going up the branch. We have this track for stuff that's going that way, and we have one spare. Because this is a relatively simple situation. Um, Whereas on the other hand, we go to Olive. And now my computer's really getting mad. On the other hand, we go to Olive, where we have 4 tracks. But these 4 tracks are... We've got... Sorry. We've got, like, this one for going that way, this one for going this way, this one for going up the, VMR. Oh, hey, Ryan. Last time for a long time. Well, you will be missed. Godspeed. Things are alright. I am currently grousing about lack of constraints when it comes to making yards. And then this one for whatever. I mean, this one could be going toward, this one's like local service, and this one is straight to Gilson City. That's the problem with this. There are too many possible destinations for tracks in this yard. At a minimum, you want a yard, and this is a good rule of thumb. If stuff's ever going to get shuffled around in a yard, you want it to have number of destinations plus 2. The first one is so that you can compile stuff for locals, and the second one is so that you can have a place to leave trains before you take them apart. That's what you want in a yard. If you've got an interchange point, and you've got, like an Olive, you've got up the VMR, up the Gilson Eastern, down the VMR, down the Gilson Eastern, the branch line. That's 5 already. We've only got 4. Local stuff to Mason's Valley and Mason Landing, which you could put together. So that's 6. Then your 2. One for the yard switcher, one for, local switcher for the stuff in town, and one for unloading. That's 8 tracks. Technically, we have 8 tracks. We have the 4 stubs and the 4 throughs. So, in theory, yes, this is, this is good, but I don't use them that way. They aren't used that way. These are, you take a train apart and you disassemble it into here, as close as you can get it to 4 different directions, and then you pile those things together and put them in here to put together trains that are ready to go out. That's the closest it's going to get. The only thing that I could theoretically do would be working aluminum forge, literally modeling, removing imperfections. Wow, cool. Something I could do that would improve this setup is probably add a track that comes off here and cuts across like this. That way you could use these tracks as organizing and also have a quick way to grab a caboose, stick it on the end of a train, and then go around. But not a lot of yards are built like that, and it would be a little bit awkward, and it would be a little confusing for the AI. It's probably not a good thing to do. Let's see. We need to figure out how to divvy this up, though. I've got 10 minutes. Can we figure it out? Also, where is this road going? That's the other question. I think it might just be going around the backside here. If we extend these things out, where do they end up? So you're pointing 143. And you are pointing 233, which they meet over here. That's 335, wrong way. They meet over here, and it finishes this square But I don't really want this square. I think... Because this comes in and then it curves this way and then it goes this way. And I think this is going to go into here. And all of this area could just be cleared for, like, potential future town expansion if they wanted to have stuff on this side. I don't know. Because I know the only river crossing is going to be down here. Like, that's it. Actually, what this does is probably leads to this and the dam. So, let's just do that. Or terminate it over there. The road will terminate over here. I hate the fact that so often I feel like I've had ideas and then forgotten them. Like things that could even be good ideas. You know? Whereas this I'm going to extend out to here. And I kind of want to scoot over to the left, but yeah, let's just center that a little bit. Now we're going to have to scoot the crossing boards over. There. This is what I'm going to call the final location of this road. For the most part, I just have to move the right one in a little bit, or the southeast one, the west one. This is the west one. Yes. I need to move the west one slightly to the east. And then we'll bring it to here, because we can have the road peel off for this. And then just have it turn back into dirt. Because what is in this direction? So if we look at the... I'm going to have to pull up the map now. And this is going to be the last thing we do probably today. So maps, Tolbrand superimposed PNG. And I'll show you my screen for this so that you can come along with me. We are here. There is not much up that way. In fact, I would wager that there is not a road that goes through the hills. So this is going to be a dirt path at best for farms that are closer into the mountains. Actually, probably not even that. Now here, and then just around the backside that way. You know, when you're just looking at a mountain range. Let's see, grab this. And put this, just bring it to here. I kind of want this to be paved. Put in a static Pan Am engine because RIP, yeah. I'll bury it. I'll bury it underground. So you don't know where it is, but you know it's there. You can't see it, because it wouldn't belong. But Pan Am doesn't belong in our world. It's too good for it. Okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's too bad for it. This I'm not sure about. But leaving this area blank is probably the way to go. Just cleared for future use slash development question mark. Just a mound nearby, yeah. Random abandoned plane. Yeah, there you go. Oh! Crop dusting airstrip, anybody? I feel like we've talked about this before. It might be in my ideas doc somewhere. Nope, it's not. That would be an interesting way to spice up Bellington. How long is a crop dusting airstrip, and can we fit one right here? Between that and the river. Hold on. Do I have any runway splines? I have this runway 103. No, that's too nice. There's a place outside of my town that is used as a makeshift runway. Runway 30 meters. Yeah, okay, we need like a dirt runway. Yeah, a texture would be good. I just wasn't sure if this was like gravel or something. I'm just gonna mark it down. I'm gonna put this here so that I remember what I was talking about. And I'm gonna look up runway splines on the DLS real quick. Is there a super wide dirt road? Yeah, I would hope for something like that, you know? Airport runway signage. Oh, let's on download station, and also category spline. 59 runway flat white. Okay, no, we're gonna have to do it as texture because this is not working out for me. So gotta be grass. Runways I love are backups for the big international airports. That's where I get to see the last 747 built with my own eyes. Oh wow. So yeah, we're gonna put a little airstrip here because how appropriate is it? Why have I never thought about it before? Maybe I have. Maybe I even shot it down once before. But Pan Am having a little airstrip, and we can deliver AV fuel to it too. So, you know, win-win. Make it like really awkward too. Like make it a sharp turn that peels off of this and goes to a fuel depot. Does Torwood have wildfires and an airborne fire suppression service? Honestly, I think the climate is too temperate for them to worry about that right now. Give it another 50 years or so. But either way, at least we got one good idea out of this stream. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next week. This is the Admiral, signing off.